Good evening, and I am William Pokshiva. Tonight we have a special presentation on the senses and how we learn from them. Tonight we will learn about the various senses by going out to various experts and news correspondents. First, we go out to our correspondent Michael Rigdon to learn about the auditory sense.
Thank you, William. Have you ever wanted to communicate with your friends in a different language? Well, recent studies done by the Washington Post show that learning a second language is so much more than just studying vocab or grammar, but listening to the language and allowing our brains to put it through comprehensive input. As we get comprehensible input through listening and reading, we acquire or absorb the grammar and vocabulary of the second language. Listening in the brain is divided into 3 different categories, says neuropsychologist David Rose, chief scientist of cognition and learning at CAST. Recognizing sounds and their meaning. When speaking, we use our voices to emphasize critical information using various variations in loudness, pitch, length, and accents. Recognizing the shifts in the meaning that result from a simple change in emphasis is another essential part of listening. Strategies for making meaning. Listening is qualitatively different from hearing. Hearing is effortless and automatic and non-selective. Our brains recognize and categorize sounds even when we're sleeping, which is why we wake to a faint by an unexpected noise in the next room, but sleep peacefully through the blast of a regular midnight train. We need to be awake to listen. Hearing is reactive, while listening is strategic. Affect and emotion. Affective cortex plays a key role in effective listening. Without it, we are impaired in our ability to recognize what is important and what is being said. But also, we are impaired in our ability to establish a priority for listening, to focus attention approximately, to select what is of value, and to remember what is important.
Thank you, Michael. And now we go out to one of our other news correspondents, Drangel Shong, on the sense of smell. Drangel?
Hey, William. You may not see it, you may not hear it, but you sure can smell it. Sometimes our other senses, such as our sense of sight and hearing, are limited. That's when our sense of smell comes in. Of course, because we are always breathing, we naturally take in these floating molecules in the air. It's just that we are not always aware of that. Well, until a new foreign smell comes in and disturbs this obliviousness. Let's say, for example, one morning you're too busy texting or Facebooking or whatever in another room outside of the kitchen and forget to check on your pancake. You can't see the pancake, you can't hear the pancake, but you can certainly smell the pancake. In this case, your brain would interpret the smell first and serve as a reminder that maybe you need to go check on those pancakes. I mean, the last thing you would want to smell is your whole house burning down. On the other hand, it seems like our sense of smell is also limited. In fact, compared to most animals, it seems like we have the least developed measures of senses. Our perceptions can be significantly affected and differentiate from each other based on our given ability to sense something. For example, our ways of perception would be completely different to that of a dog's. Why is that? Well, because their sense of smell is way more enhanced than a human's. In fact, we actually use dogs to track down people, drugs, and bombs because their sense of smell is stronger than ours. The sense of smell would also affect the way we judge others, such as if someone has a bad odor, then we would judge that person as someone who has poor hygiene, and we would avoid that person because they have an unpleasant smell. The way someone smells can also serve as a memory of the people we have met or in other words, we can memorize people by their smell. If someone smells pleasant, then the next time you meet that person, you would remember that they smell pleasant. That probably wouldn't be a current thought, but it would be something that you know about that person. Our brains can also memorize the way something smells on everyday objects, like how the way something smells can bring back certain memories or trigger memories that are associated with it. For example, the smell of rain could probably remind you of a day you were sad, or the smell of popcorn could remind you of a day you went to watch a movie. We can also perceive smell as a way to attract people towards you or to be the attractive. Nowadays, a lot of people use perfume or cologne to smell good. A pleasant smell would give a good impression of you, thus making you seem more attractive. This can also relate to how we determine whether a food can be eaten or not. If it smells good, then of course you would want to eat it, but if it smells bad, then it'll most likely give you the idea that it won't taste good. Many of you may be aware that the ability to smell varies among each person. All of us have a different extent as to how much or how well we can smell. This is why many of our perceptions differ from each other, not only taking into account the sense of smell, but also sight, hearing, taste, and touch. And how we perceive something would be based on the way our brain would interpret it based on the extent of our senses.
Thank you, J. Angel. And now a word from our sponsors. After this, we will have an interview with Tran, an expert on the sense of sight.
Is this you?
Billy! Billy! Did you take the garbage out? Billy! Billy, is your homework done?
What? I can't hear you!
Have your parents ever told you to turn down the music and you just haven't heard them?
Why can't someone help me?
According to the USA Today, 1 in 5 teens has noticeable hearing loss. That's 30% more than just 10 years ago.
What did you need? I can't hear you. My ears, they hurt!
Don't be like Billy.
And we're back. Here we have our expert on the sense of sight, Tran. Greetings, Hao. Thank you for joining us on this evening.
Hey, thanks for having me on your broadcast.
So I heard you made a groundbreaking discovery on the way culture affects the identification of objects. Would you care to elaborate on this fact?
Yeah, so let me tell you a story. So I went to China recently this year, and I was supposed to conduct an experiment, a psychology experiment, on why baby pandas are so aggressive towards unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, we had a little free time, so we walked around in several areas of China. And there was this one part in China, it was a low-income neighborhood, and we just wanted to see what life is like in there. So what happened in there was, when I pulled out my cell phone, I wanted to get reception to see if I can do anything with it right now. And this homeless girl, she comes in and asks, why am I pressing on this piece of rock? I said to myself, this wasn't a piece of rock, it's a cell phone. But when I told her that, I said, no, this is a cell phone, it's not a rock. However, she constantly believes that I am pressing a piece of rock, which makes it weird. My colleagues and I were like, what? So what I did was I wanted to see if anything else I had, she would say it was different from what we would see. So I pulled out a pen, and I asked her what it was. She called it a chopstick. I do not know why she called it a chopstick, but she did. So this opened another case for me to investigate. And instead of looking at the one with baby pandas and unicorns, I decided to investigate the case where people can see differently from others. So we brought the girl back from USA.
And what did you do with her when you got her here?
What we did was, well, we brought other children as well, and we had to know if they had been completely isolated from society and they had to be condensed into one portion of their culture. Mm-hmm. So this experiment won't go, and we need participants that have been able to not understand or see other cultures, specifically the USA. And when the little girl came here for some reason, she was astonished. She was so amazed by what USA had to offer. And we brought other children in as well, so we can conduct more experiments.
And what did you learn from this?
I learned that culture does have a factor in affecting perception. So coming from this, the way we see things may be different from how other people may view things. For example, the cell phone and the rock. The way the Chinese girl saw that it was a rock and we saw it was a cell phone. And it also opened my eyes to another point of view, that you have to be open-minded. You can't be so close-minded or be a reductionist into your culture. You have to understand and comprehend other people's beliefs, so that you're able to know where they're coming from and not call them weird or abnormal.
That sounds amazing, Hal. Do you have any evidence, maybe some pictures, some video to show our audience?
Yeah, actually, I have a video of conducting the experiment.
I'm recording now.
Oh, okay. Alright. You ready? Alright. Well, it's like 2 a.m. in the morning. We've ran through several months of trials, and now we're going to do it on another subject to show you what we're actually focusing on, which is culture and how it affects perception. So we have subject 253 here, over there. Yeah. And his background is that he's been living in Europe, around Germany, and his parents have praised the medieval times, so he's been growing up in an environment where he never dealt with anything except objects from medieval times and the medieval era. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify these objects. We have a stool, book, pen, a vase, and a trash basket, and see what he sees compared to us, or compared to me. Alright. You ready? Don't worry about him. He's not important. Okay. What's this? You know this is a stool, right? Something you sit on.
It's a battering ram. You never seen a battering ram.
First trial, it's a battering ram. Next object. What do you call this?
Helmet.
A helmet.
A helmet.
You know that's a trash basket, right?
I don't know what that is.
Not at all. Nothing at all. What do you do with trash where you live?
Burn it.
Burn it.
Burn it.
Okay. Alright. Next object. What do you call this?
Shield.
A shield?
A shield.
Something filled with paper is a shield. Okay, alright. Alright. Next one. What would you call that?
A grail.
A grail.
A grail.
You know those, we don't even do any types of grills.
Honestly, we use grills all the time.
Okay. Alright. Final object. What would you call this? It's pretty simple. Whoa, what are you doing?
Dagger!
Cut the video.
And thank you, Hal, for that magical and enlightening video. And now we move on to our expert on taste, Ihab Ali. Thank you, Ihab. And now we move on to another expert, an expert of the kinesthetic sense, John Alanis. Thank you, John. And now we move on to our last segment. We go out to Logan Hansen, our expert on touch.
Okay, so I'm standing outside.